Good evening. May I have a mover and a seconder to call this meeting to order? Henry and Mike, that this Committee of Adjustments meeting held on July 24, 2024, come to order at 6 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none, let the record show there are none. May I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the previous minutes? Brad and Steve, that the Committee of Adjustments minutes held June 26, 2024 be adopted as presented. Carried. All in favor? Carried. Welcome to this Committee of Adjustments meeting to allow the public an opportunity to express their views regarding the proposed minor variances and consents within the Township of Springwater. Each applicant and their agent is, if applicable, will be given the opportunity to present the application to the committee and public. Additional information on each of the applications, including any presentation material, is available in the committee agenda on the township's website. Following those members of public whom registered to make an oral submission prior to 5:30 p.m. July 23rd, 2024, will be given the opportunity to do so. All oral submissions will be included in this meeting's minutes and form part of the public record, including the name and address of the speaker as information collected under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The minutes of the meetings will be posted on the township website. All comments or questions should be addressed to the chair. Application 1. Will the Secretary Treasurer please introduce the first application, item number 4.1 on the agenda?
Thank you. Item 4.1 on the agenda is minor variance application A1924, submitted by M. Elson regarding lands known municipally as 1190 Gill Road. The purpose of the application is to permit the construction of an additional residential unit within an addition to an existing detached accessory building, which will exceed the total maximum area provisions of zoning bylaw 5000. The effect would be to permit a maximum total area of 142 square meters, whereas section 33.3.14.1H permits a maximum total area of accessory buildings or structures of 115 square meters.
Have any additional correspondence and or comments been received?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, comments have been received from the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority stating no concerns.
Can I please have the applicant introduce themselves and provide comment, if any?
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt. I'm the property owner. Really, it's pretty straightforward. It's a small apartment flat for my mom to come and live with us because she has Parkinson's and her care needs are kind of progressing a little bit. So wanted to have her close here. So essentially it'll be one floor only on the back of our existing garage, and it'll follow the roof line for that garage. And that's really about it. I don't really have anything else to add.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered to make an oral submission?
Thank you. There are no members of the public who have registered to make an oral submission.
Thank you. Are there any additional members of the public in attendance this evening to make an oral submission? Thank you. Do any members of the committee wish to comment or have any questions concerning the application? May I have a motion from one of the committee members for application A19-24? Mike?
Yeah, I'd move that the application be approved as per the report of the planning report.
May I have a seconder? Steve? That the Committee of Adjustments, having given consideration to the applicable provisions of Section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the land in question and the surrounding as addressed in the planning report on the application dated July 24, 2024, the correspondence received and information presented at the hearings held on July 24, 2024, and the discussion of the matter hereby approve application A19-24. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application number 2, will the Secretary Treasurer please introduce the next application, item number 4.2 on the agenda?
Thank you. Item 4.2 on the agenda is minor variance application A2224 submitted by M Hall regarding lands known municipally as 1317 Snow Valley Road. The purpose of the application is to permit the construction of a detached accessory building which will exceed the height provision of zoning bylaw 5000. The effect would permit a maximum height of 4.8 meters, whereas section 3.7.5B permits a maximum height of 4.5 meters or the height of the dwelling, whichever is the lesser.
Have any additional correspondence and or comments been received?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, comments have been received from the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority stating no concerns.
Can I please have the agent introduce themselves and provide comment, if any?
My name is Michael Hall. I am the owner along with my wife. It is our hope to put in a garage, and we've asked for the extra height because I want to put a lift in so I can work on my cars. It's a personal thing, and this piece of property, at least the garage will be in the back third of the property, so it won't even be seen by anybody, but it will be a very attractive building.
Thank you. Any members of the public? Are there any members of the public registered to make an oral submission?
Thank you, Chair. There have been no members of the public who have registered to make an oral submission.
Thank you. If you want to just sit in case any of us have a question for you, you can just sit here. Yeah. Are there any additional members of the public in attendance this evening to make an oral submission? Thank you. Do any members of the committee wish to comment or have any questions concerning the application? Go ahead, Steve.
Through you, Madam Chair. I've been to this property before. It was for sale, actually. I went and had a look at it. So it's a nice big open spot in the back. That's where the garage is gonna go. So there's no additional tree removals that are being removed. I mean, I don't have an issue with the increase in height. As the applicant said, it's tucked away in behind the existing building. You can't even really see the cleared area. It's a gravel area. It's already all cleared out. So I don't have any concerns with the proposed application. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion from one of the committee members for application A22-24? Steve?
Through you, Madam Chair, I move that the application be approved as per the recommendation of planning staff as outlined in the staff report. Thank you.
May I have a seconder? Henry? That the Committee of Adjustments having given consideration to the applicable provisions of section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of land in question and its surrounding as addressed in the planning report on application dated July 24, 2024, the correspondence received and information presented at the hearing held on July 24, 2024, and the discussion of the matter hereby approve application A22-24. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application 3, will the Secretary Treasurer please introduce the next application, item number 4.3 on the agenda?
Thank you. Item 4.3 on the agenda is minor variance application A2324 submitted by Kay Chisholm of MHBC on behalf of Claire Rose Midhurst GP Inc. regarding lands known municipally as 2347 Gill Road, 2351 Gill Road, 2275 Gill Road, 154 Doran Road, and 2290 Russell Road. The purpose and effect of the application is to permit the installation of a well pump house with a reduced front and interior side yard setback. which varies from the setback provisions of zoning bylaw 5,000. The effect would be to permit a minimum front yard depth of 9 meters, whereas section 3134A requires a minimum of 10 meters and a minimum easterly interior side yard width of 5 meters, whereas section 3136I requires a minimum of 15 meters.
Have any additional correspondence and or comments been received?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, comments have been received from the Simcoe County District School Board stating no comment, and the Manager of Development Services stating no concerns.
Can I please have the applicant introduce themselves and provide comment, if any?
Good evening, members of the committee and members of the public in attendance this evening. My name's Corey Chisholm. I'm a partner with MHBC Planning in Barrie, and I'm here before you this evening on behalf of our client, Claire Rose. I do have a short presentation prepared for you, so I'll take you through that and then happy to answer any questions any members of the committee or public may have following the presentation. If we can go to the next slide, please. So just to orient the committee and members of the public, the proposed minor variance this evening has to do with a small well pump house located within one of the parks that's within the much larger Midhurst Heights subdivision, which is approved. So the slide before you, this shows you the outer boundaries of the entire subdivision. But as we move to the next slide, so here's the approved draft plan of subdivision. And the minor variance this evening has to do with the large park at the north end of the site, the large kind of triangular shaped green block you see there. And we have the east end of that highlighted in red, which is the area that the well pump house that's in question this evening is proposed to be located. Next slide, please. So just zooming in on that area, we are proposing a municipal well pump house. It's a small structure, as we'll see shortly, and it is always been planned to be located within that much larger park block. The park block is zoned open space, so the open space zone has fairly large minimum required setbacks, those being 10 meters to the front yard and 15 meters from a side yard. Through discussion with township staff, planning, engineering, and parks and recreation staff, there is a desire to push the well pump house closer to that end dwelling, just to maximize the functional area of the park. So we're not left with a larger gap in between the house and the well pump house that isn't as functional. We'd like to shift it over. Still provide a separation, as we'll see, but maximize the larger area for recreational activities within the park. Next slide, please. So this is the proposed site plan, which has been submitted and reviewed through the subdivision process with township planning and engineering staff. It is a small structure that would look like a small single-story dwelling. And in behind that, there is a generator, which would only be used in emergency purposes if the power would fail. And that generator is screened by a wood privacy fence that encloses the generator. So we can see the proposed pump house is located 5 meters from the interior side lot line. And the front yard setback, we're seeking a reduction from 10 to 9 meters. And really that 9-meter reduction is only at the road's curving there. So it's at the closest point. As we move west, that setback increases. We can also see here the proposed siting of the dwellings that will be in those lots adjacent to it. So those single detached dwellings have a minimum required interior side yard of 1.2 meters. So those houses, as you'll see in most modern subdivisions, are quite close together. So the well pump house will be 5 meters from the lot line. So it is still a larger separation distance than we are seeing in between those single detached houses, but it will blend into that streetscape. And the 5 meters that's left separating the well pump house and the closest dwelling, there is plenty of opportunity for additional landscaping, tree planting when we do the detailed design of that park block to provide a bit more screening. Next slide, please. So this is just a zoom in. As we can see at the the closest point from the southeast corner of the well pump house to the road, it would be 9 meters, where a minimum of 10 meters is required in the open space zone. And next slide, please. And then on the side yard, it is just slightly over 5 meters from the property line over to the well pump house. And on this zoom in, you can also see the emergency generator there and behind, which is surrounded by wooden privacy fencing. Next slide, please. So again, this slide just summarizes those two requests, going from 10 to 9 on the front yard setback and from 15 down to 5 on that eastern interior side yard setback. Next slide, please. So again, just with that context in mind, the intent of the pushing it closer to that side lot line is to maximize the functional recreation area within that large park block. Next slide, please. So we did submit a planning justification letter in support of the proposed minor variances, and through that I go through how the proposed minor variance, in my opinion, maintains the intent, conforms with the township's official plan, maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw, is desirable for the development of the wider park block, and is minor in nature. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, it is my professional opinion that the proposed minor variance is consistent with and conforms to the various layers of provincial, county, and township planning policies, meets the 4 tests of the minor variance under the Planning Act, represents good planning, and should be approved. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and happy to answer any questions from the committee or members of the public.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered to make an oral submission?
Thank you, Chair. There have been no members of the public who have registered to make any oral submissions for this application.
Thank you. Are there any additional members of the public in attendance this evening to make an oral submission? Thank you. Do any members of the committee wish to comment or have any questions concerning the application? Steve? Mike?
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. The site or the front yard setback of the adjoining residential lot is less than the front yard setback of this one. As expected. Thank you.
Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just I have a couple of questions for staff. Is there any architectural control guidelines for this subdivision? Are they subject to that? So how are we to ensure that the design of this building, while we're going to look at a reduced setback, is going to maintain the urban design and the character of the surrounding properties? Thank you.
Through you, Chair, to member Steve Farquharson, there is a requirement under their draft plan conditions for architectural control guidelines, and this building would have to comply with those guidelines as well. The Midhurst secondary plan also has got design guidelines, urban design guidelines, which would need to be consistent with those control guidelines submitted. And in fact, they have been submitted for us to review.
Follow on?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And also, is there anything in the subdivision approval for landscaping in between these two properties? If it's a reduction in landscaping, is there any sort of tree vegetations that are going to be planted in between these? It is a park block, so I wasn't sure if there's going to be any sort of vegetation planted in that reduced setback. Thank you.
Yes, through you to member Farquharson. Yes, there will be landscape design plans for the park that would be submitted. They may have actually already been submitted. I don't know if Corey, if you can just comment on that.
Thanks. Thanks for that. And just to add on, so there is a detailed design of the park block underway. The exact landscape plans have not been submitted yet, but there is draft plan condition requirements for the owner to work with the township on the programming and landscaping design of the park. So that will be a requirement moving forward through the subdivision agreement process and registration process.
Brad?
Thank you. Through the chair, I see in the drawing, this will be pushing the soakaway pit quite a bit closer to the property line. What is the purpose of the soakaway pit? I presume any backwash water would be going to this sanitary or storm.
Correct. In addition to the programming of the park for recreational purposes, through the master planning of the Midhurst Heights development, there are stormwater management practices incorporated into the park. And low impact development is the term used on the engineering side. So it encourages, in addition to the large stormwater management pond that's in the subdivision, there is techniques that help absorb stormwater into the ground and infiltrate that back into the ground. So the ultimate grading and kind of function of that park block has been reviewed with the township's engineering department, and they don't have any concerns with the moving the well block closer to the side lot line.
Follow on?
Yeah, could you just clarify what the source water is for that soakaway pit? It looks like it's on a high point on the property, so it doesn't look like surface drainage would be coming
Yeah.
to it. It looks like. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I just have a question. Would the pump give off a lot of noise with the dwelling beside that?
That's an excellent question, and one that was raised by township planning staff after we made the application. So there are provincial noise requirements that the generator has to follow. And AECOM, the engineer designing the well pump house, has confirmed that they would be below those thresholds. They did also confirm that the generator is only for emergency purposes. So they would do testing on it to make sure it's working, and so they would test it for a half hour every month. And beyond that, the only time it would run would be in a major storm event where the power was out.
Thank you. Any other questions, Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question, because it doesn't give the detail there, and I don't expect it to be on this plan, but how high is that tight board fence that goes around the generator?
I don't have that right in front of me, but I believe it's your typical 2 meter.
2 meters?
fencing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? May I have a motion from one of the committee members for application A23-24? Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the application be approved as recommended in the staff report. Thank you.
May I have a seconder? Mike? That the Committee of Adjustments, having given consideration to the applicable provisions of Section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the land in question and its surrounding as addressed in the planning report on the application dated July 24, 2024, the correspondence received and information presented at the hearings held on July 24, 2024, and the discussion on the matter hereby approve application A23-24. All in favor? Carried. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Application number 4, will the Secretary Treasurer please introduce the next application, item number 4.4 on the agenda?
Thank you, Chair. Item 4.4 on the agenda is minor variance application A2424 submitted by Jay White regarding lands known municipally as 11539 County Road 27. The purpose of the application is to permit the construction of a 138.32 square meter accessory building with a height of 5.48 meters, which when combined with the existing detached accessory building on the subject lands will result in the exceedance of the total size provision of zoning bylaw 5000. The effect would be to permit a total area of 178.32 square meters, whereas section 33.314.1 permits a maximum of 115 square meters and a maximum height of 5.48 meters, whereas section 375 permits a maximum of 4.5 meters or the height of the dwelling, whichever is the lesser.
Have any additional correspondence and or comments been received?
Yes, comments have been received from the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority stating no concerns.
Can I please have the applicant introduce themselves and provide comment, if any?
I'm John White from 11539. I think the application speaks for itself. Basically just an outbuilding for maintaining the property and storage.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered to make an oral submission?
Yes, Chair, there is one member of the public who have registered to make an oral submission. Jerry McIntyre, you may now provide your submission if you are in person.
Do I stay here? Okay.
Good evening. I'm Geraldine McIntyre, owner of 11533 County Road 27 to the south of Mr. White. What I'm here to talk to is this building Mr. White wants to build is 700 square feet more than what is allowed. This is why he's asking for the variance, as well as the height, which is 4.76 feet allowed by the township. He wants his to be built 1,700 or 17.55 feet. This building, everyone, is going to be right up beside my house, fairly close to the lot line. I have windows to the north. This building will cut off any natural light to my home. And the noise of it, you're supposed to have a quiet permission or possession of your home. But it's going to cut off any view to the north of my house. And I just don't feel that it should be that close to my house, where Mr. White has a large lot and other people, myself included, have buildings, workshops or whatever at the back of the house, at the back lot, or the lot. And they're long lots. You probably know where they are, just north of Doran Road on 27. So, and my house sits back where this building will be, and I really don't feel that it should be appropriate that a building can come in and cut off my quiet enjoyment or the natural light that would come in my bedroom windows from the north. That's my complaint. Not that Mr. White shouldn't have a building, but just, I sound terrible, just not next door to me. And that's what my comments, okay?
Very much. Are there any additional members of the public in attendance this evening to make an oral submission? Thank you. Do any members of the committee wish to comment or have any questions concerning the application? Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Questions to staff. So in the staff report, it mentions when you take the size of all the buildings and put them together, it's still smaller than the existing dwelling. Is that correct? Because just looking at the site plan the applicant has provided, it looks visually on the plan. You wrote it. That when you add them both up, it looks like it is bigger than the existing building, the existing dwelling. Just looking for clarification on that from staff.
Brianna?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Member Farquharson. As noted in the staff report, it is in comparison to the gross floor area of the dwelling. So what is shown on the site plan is just a representation of the ground floor area and not the gross floor area of the dwelling. It's a two-story dwelling with a finished basement as well.
Follow on?
Madam Chair, so you guys don't include the basement in the GFA deal, do you? Because it's below grade?
Brianna?
Through you, Chair, to Member Farquharson. The basement is calculated as part of the GFA, provided it isn't defined as a cellar, but rather as a basement.
Okay. All right.
Follow on?
And to the applicant, you've heard from your neighbor, is there a reason why this has to be located in the spot that it is? Could it not be shifted further away from that lot line to minimize the impact to the neighboring resident? So what's the rationale for for having it on that side of the property. And also what's being stored in the other building. You're saying this is being stored just for personal, storage stuff. What's the existing building being used for that's on the property for the garage? Thank you.
Excuse me, if you just want to come back up here. Thank you.
Yeah, the existing garage now, being that the house is so small, has a lot of household items in it. So my lawn tractor now is just in the driveway. As for moving the building, I have no problem with where the building's gonna go for the most part.
Sorry.
But this minor variance, is it addressing where the building is going, or is it just addressing the size of the building on the property?
Brianna?
Thank you, Chair, through you, to the rest of the committee. I just wanted to clarify that the application before us today is about the height and area of the accessory building. It is my understanding that Mr. White is not proposing any amendments to the minimum required setbacks of the zoning bylaw. So in that case, the minimum setback for a detached accessory building in the agricultural zone, which Mr. White is 3 meters, so 10 feet. So we would just be looking that he is at least that minimum of 10 feet from the property line.
Steve, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I understand what the variances that the applicant has said he's applying for. The neighboring resident has expressed concerns about where it's being located, and as part of being where it's located is the size of it. So if this were to be brought down to what the bylaw allows, it would be significantly reduced and therefore may minimize the impact to the neighboring resident. So in my opinion, if the applicant is not willing to look at possibly pushing it further away from the lot line, I wouldn't support this increase, and I would look to not support the application for the size, and that the size should remain as the bylaw outlines. Thank you.
You have a question? Brad?
Just a general comment. I basically agree with what Mr. Farquharson says. That if it was pushed to another part of the property, that wasn't as much of an impact on your neighbor. I wouldn't have a problem with this at all, but if
I have no problem doing that.
okay, then I guess it's a question of the process to do that without having to expend more funds.
Are they able to have an amendment to that through us?
I picked that location because there was a bunch of really big trees there. So I wanted to put it in between 2 large trees so that I wouldn't have to take one of the trees down to put the building. Or have to bother with them.
Through the chair-
Oh,
sorry. I think what we're trying to figure out now is, it sounds like you're open to moving it, that we would
Yeah.
prefer it be moved. I think we're just trying to work out the process so that you don't have
process
to
of how-
submit more fees
Right, let's do that.
or potentially get this approved as soon as possible.
Increase
go ahead, Mike.
condition.
Sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. I just have a question to the public comment, if you don't mind, the lady next door. You would, your comment was that this is gonna block your light. Is it the building that's gonna block the light, or the difference in the height from the bylaw to the application that's gonna block your light? Is it the difference, or the building itself is gonna block your light? Okay, thanks.
We're just gonna figure this one out 1 second. Steve?
To you, Madam Chair, yeah, I mean, it's because the applicant isn't requesting a variance for a setback, we can't require it to be pushed back. It's not a requirement for us. We've expressed I've expressed my concerns. But in that case, I mean, I wouldn't support the height. That's the other mechanism. If I don't support where it's currently located because of concerns of the height, then I would just recommend that it go to what the height is, that the height variance be denied. The size, I don't have an issue with the size if it's pushed over, but we can't condition that as part of this, unfortunately, as the committee, because it's not a variance that's requested. And if we were to defer it, the only thing I could think of is that the applicant would have to come back with a revised site plan, and then we would then condition that approval. We would be quoting that site plan as quoted in the staff report. So that's an option the committee could consider if the committee as a whole has concerns with where it's located, but we can't condition to make him go further away.
Henry?
I just want clarification. Is it the height that's going to bother you? Or is it the actual building being this close to your property line?
Building right beside the house. Is what she's concerned about the building being right beside my house. Building, and yeah, if it gets loud, because he's gonna put like a hoist and stuff in. And the construction of it, and we had mentioned a parking lot too, so. But that's, and it is a large building. It's going to be almost as large as my house.
But as through you, Chair, as stated, he's allowed to build the building where he's building it. So that's following the township bylaws. The only thing that that is coming in front of us is because of the height. So that's why I ask is the height the problem, or is it actually the building being so close to your house? And so you're just telling me it's because the building is so close to your house.
And where it's the building that's already there is a shed. Was built many years ago, and I've lived there 46 years, and it's not set back. The setback. But it'll have to be the setback that they say. Huh? The setback that they say. Yes. You can't go. They can't just build right behind it, and I don't, and close to my house, cut off any view.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I cut you off there. Thank you, Brianna. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to reiterate that the applicant will be required to meet the minimum setback requirements. If he did not have that existing accessory building on the property, I'm just looking at my numbers, he would be, he could build 115 square foot detached structure today at 10 feet from the property line in the location he is proposing. That may have an impact on your view. Unfortunately, we don't own the view, and we need to consider the planning considerations before us. So as I stated, the minimum setback of the zoning bylaw of 10 feet will need to be maintained by the property owner. And he is proposing this to the rear of the existing dwelling and detached accessory building.
Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Given the ask and given the degree of variance and given the objections, I'll be supporting the motion as is.
It is a pitched roof, and the pitched roof would be in the direction of the neighbor, so the lowest point of the roof would be at the property line.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? May I have a motion? Yeah, may I have a motion of one of the committee members for application A24 2024? A24 24. Henry?
Make a motion that it be, we approve the application, put forth, along with the stipulations that the planning report has, submitted to us.
May I have a seconder? That the Committee of Adjustments having given consideration to applicable provisions of section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the land in question and surrounding as addressed in the planning report on the application dated July 24, 2024. The correspondence received and information presented at the hearings held on July 24, 2024, and the discussion on this matter hereby approve the application A 2424. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thanks.
Application number 5, with the Secretary Treasurer please introduce the next application, item number 4.5 on the agenda.
Item 4.5 on the agenda is consent application B 1324 submitted by K Easby regarding lands known municipally as 12 Second Avenue. The purpose and effect of the application is to obtain approval to sever one new residential lot consisting of approximately 806 square meters of lot area with approximately 20.1 meters of lot frontage on Second Avenue. The applicant proposes to retain approximately 812.6 square meters of lot area with approximately 20.1 meters of lot frontage on Second Avenue, containing a single detached dwelling.
Have any additional correspondence and or comments been received?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, comments have been received from the drainage superintendent stating that the property is not assessed into a municipal drain, the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority stating no concerns, Enbridge Gas stating no concerns, and Hydro One stating no concerns.
Can I please have the applicant introduce himself and provide comment if any?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle Easby. I'm the owner of 12 Second Avenue in Phelpston, and don't really have any comments. Pretty much said it with your explanation there. I'm hoping to retain 2 lots to build a residential home on the other lot.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered to make an oral submission?
Thank you, Chair. There have been no members of the public who have registered to make an oral submission.
Are there any other additional members of the public in attendance this evening to make an oral submission? Thank you. Do you have any members of the committee? Do any members of the committee wish to comment or have any questions concerning the application? Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's more of a question for staff. It's noted in the report that a variance is going to be required. Why doesn't the town require a variance to be submitted at the same time as the consent? Why is it a 2-step process?
Thank you, Chair Mont Chapman, through you to Member Farquharson. I think we kind of went about this. We didn't want to charge him in case this application wouldn't get approved. We just didn't want to put 2 application fees on him. So we figured if the consent the consent goes through, he's also going to need to lift the restricted covenant, which is also another fee that's going to be accompanied with that. So we just wanted to put the consent forward and see if approval was obtained through that. Thank you.
Follow on?
And thank you, Madam Chair. That additional restricted covenant you were talking about has to come, does that come through this committee? Or does that go through council?
Chair Mont Chapman, through you to Member Farquharson and the Massive Committee. This is actually going to have to be lifted through council. I believe it's a clerk's process. So if the application is approved tonight, it will have to go through that. And then you will see the variance come through to us for the existing dwelling on the property that resides there now today.
Thank you. Any other questions? May I have a motion from one of the committee members for application B 13-24? Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the application be approved as per the conditions as outlined in the staff report. Thank you.
May I have a seconder? Mike? that the Committee of Adjustments, having given consideration to the applicable provisions of Section 53 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of land and questions in its surrounding as addressed in the planning report on application dated July 24, 2024, the correspondence received and information presented at the hearings held on July 24, 2024, and the decision matter hereby approve application B13-24, subject to the following conditions. The applicant meet all the requirements, financial and otherwise, of the municipality. 2, that the applicant provide 2 copies of the registered survey of the severed lands prepared by the Ontario Land Surveyor. 3, that the owner applicant satisfy and be responsible for all costs to satisfy Section 65 of the Drainage Act 1990 if applicable. 4, that the applicant provide confirmation that the existing well and private septic are wholly contained within the boundaries of the retained lands to the satisfaction of the township's chief building official. 5, that the applicant provide confirmation that the proposed several lot can accommodate a private well and septic to the satisfaction of the township chief building official. 6, that the applicant demolish the existing detached accessory building on the severed land to the satisfaction of the township's chief building official. 7, that the applicant obtain an entrance permit from the township of Springwater for the retained and severed lands. 8, that the applicant obtain a minor variance to recognize the deficient front yard and side yard setback are retained lands. 9, that the applicant obtain approval and be responsible for all costs associated with removing the existing restrictive covenant of the subject lands. And 10, that the applicant be required to pay the township a parkland dedication fee in line with the township's parkland dedication policy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was long. May I have a move and a seconder to adjourn this meeting? Go ahead, Steve.
One more thing, Madam Chair, just before we adjourn. I believe this is Ms. Belcourt's last CFA meeting. So I would like to thank her for her assistance with this committee and this term with me being on it. I just wanted to make sure we have that acknowledgement thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Belcourt.
Thank you.
You've been a great help. Thanks for bringing that up, Steve. May I have a move and seconder to adjourn this meeting? Henry and Brad, that the Committee of Adjustments meeting held on July 24, 2024 does now adjourn at 6:48 p.m. All in favor? Carried.